The lantern in the leaves. The forest was not supposed to be this dark. Marin had followed the deer trail in the late afternoon, chasing the shimmer of a brook she'd never seen before. But as the sun dipped behind the hills, the shadows grew thick, and the path she thought she'd been following twisted into nothing. Now the air was cool and damp, heavy with the scent of moss and the low whisper of leaves. Marin hugged her arms to herself, listening for anything. An owl, a rustle, a sign of where she was, but all she heard was her own breath. Then came the light. It was small at first, like a star snagged between branches, flickering gold. It floated toward Marin, weaving lazily through the air until it hovered at eye level. Marin blinked, and the light pulsed brighter, revealing a tiny figure within, no bigger than her hand. The fairy had hair like spun silver and wings that caught the dim light like glass catching dawn. Her eyes, green as spring, studied Marin for a long moment. Then, in a voice like the chime of distant bells, she spoke. "You've wandered deep. I'm lost," Marin admitted, her voice catching. "I was trying to get home before sunset, but paths change here after dark," the fairy said gently, tilting her head. "The forest doesn't mean you harm, but it keeps what it finds. Unless..." She extended a hand barely the size of a leaf. "Unless someone asks it to let go." Marin hesitated, then reached out. Her fingertip brushed the fairy's palm, and warmth spread up her arm, easing the tight knot of fear in her chest. The fairy darted ahead, her glow painting the tangled roots and low branches in warm gold. "Stay close," she called. "The forest likes to test the hearts it meets." They moved through twisting trails that seemed to shift when Marin looked away. At one point, the fairy led her across a fallen log slick with moss, over a brook that whispered secrets in the water. At another, she guided her beneath an arch of thorned vines that parted just enough for them to pass. Once, Marin glanced over her shoulder and saw shapes in the shadows, tall as trees, watching. But the fairy's light kept them at a distance. "How do you know the way?" Marin asked. "The forest and I are old friends," the fairy replied, her voice carrying a smile. "It lets me pass where it would hold others still. And sometimes, I carry someone back." The trees began to thin, and moonlight spilled silver on the ground. The air was lighter here, the silence softer. Ahead, Marin saw the pale shimmer of the meadow's edge. The fairy slowed, hovering before her. "This is where we part," the fairy said. Marin wanted to ask her name, to thank her again, but the fairy only pressed a hand to her heart as she said, "And don't forget, fear makes the path close. Wonder makes it open." Then she was gone, her light drifting upward until it vanished among the stars. Marin stepped into the meadow. Behind her, the forest stood quiet, as if it had never meant to keep her at all.